Okay, so it is raining outside, so today is a perfect day to talk about some dance fundamentals, especially as it relates to color guard. These are going to be really basic starter dance fundamentals that you're going to use mostly as you're starting out, and you're going to use them really throughout color guard as well. It's something that you're going to find a lot of. So pay attention to these details. It will be layered in other choreography at times. So these little details are good to get in your muscle memory, so you don't have to think about them as much. But we're just going to start with talking about feet. So with your feet, there are different movements that you'll do with your feet. One of the more common ones is to point your toes. So when you're pointing your toes, you're not just going to go here. This is a position that you could do. This is what we just call a dug toe here. Or if you were to push even further into this, where you're really pushing into that ball of your foot, this is called a forced arch, because you really have that good arching there. So those are two options, but for a true pointed toe, what you want to do is you want to not just point all the way through, so you want to point all the way through your leg, all the way through your foot, and all the way through your toes as well. And then you also need to think about what's happening down here. So I don't want my knee turning to the front. I want to think about turning out this way. And a lot of times what people do is they'll let their pinky rest on the ground and think that that's a pointed toe. And it might look that way because your big toe is pointing at the end there. But this actually is a sickled foot, which is not good form, so you want to avoid this. To avoid this, what you can think about doing, this is really, really key for good pointed toes, is think about pushing this heel as far forward as you can. So not just going here, but thinking about pushing that forward and lifting through. And then you'll have a really nice, fully elongated pointed toe there, where if you were to try to draw a straight line from the top of your leg all the way down to your center toe there, you would have a really nice straight line. So you can do that by pushing that heel forward, and you can do that on either of your toes here. So pushing that heel, not just from here, but pushing it forward to get that good form with your pointed toe. Okay, and then there is also a flex foot. That'll be a common one to do. So it's kind of the exact opposite of that pointed toe, where you're going to lift your toes up this way, and you're going to make this really nice, strong angle down here with your foot. So this is your flexed foot. You also will sometimes hear me talking about flexed hands. So instead of them being here, I just kind of mimic that movement with my hands. So they might be flexed like that. All right, in terms of the positions that we use for dance, a lot of the dance that's used in color guard is actually built off of a ballet fundamentals base. So we're going to talk right now about the 4 main ballet positions that we'll use in color guard most frequently. So to start, well, before we get into that, let's just talk about standing in parallel. So when you're standing in parallel, unless otherwise specified, your feet are going to be fully together here. And I'm thinking about lining up my toes completely and lining up my heels completely so that they appear to be in line if I'm looking from the side. So I don't want it to be, one in front of the other, anything like that. And then I don't have any space in between my feet either. So really nestling those 2 feet up against each other for a really solid parallel position. This is going to be used a lot, especially during the marching season. This is going to be where you're going to start as you go to initiate marching. But this is a good one to keep in mind. And then sometimes we'll take this into a wider stance where we're going to still keep those feet pointing forward, those toes pointing forward. We'll just go about shoulder width apart, and you will just keep that parallel position with your feet as well. Still trying to keep them in line, but not right up against each other. But so you could draw a line between them, and you're not thinking about one foot being in front of the other one. All right, so about those ballet positions. For your ballet positions, you can start in this parallel position where your feet are really nestled against each other. And then all you're going to do for your first position is you're just going to take each foot and you're going to rotate it out 45 degrees. And you're going to make sure that they're going out at equal angles away from you. And your heels are going to stay together. This is kind of our color guard version of it. We're not all trained ballet dancers, so we're not going to have the kind of crazy turnout that you would if you had been training for years and years and years as a ballet dancer. If you have been doing ballet, that's great. My dog's back here. She's adorable. Anyway, if you have been doing ballet for many years, you might be able to take that turnout even more, where a lot of ballet dancers can actually go to a full parallel position here. That would be more of your proper first position form. But we're not really in a trained position like that, and if you're trying to force that, you can really damage your knees if you aren't flexible in that knee area, or just within your feet in general. So don't try to force that. In color guard, at least for our purposes, we're only shooting for that 45 degrees. And if you can go further, that's really cool. But in this instance, we don't want you to, because we want you to look together with the rest of the team. So even if you can take it to that full parallel, make sure you're just staying at that 45 degrees so everybody looks nice and clean together. All right, so that is your first position. And we're going to take it out to a second position. So I'm just going to take my right foot out, and I'm going to step it about hip width apart. And from here, I'm going to maintain that turnout that I had with my feet. So I still have them pointing out to these 45-degree angles here. And yeah, that's about it. That is your second position. Pretty easy peasy. You're going to feel really grounded in this position. This should feel fairly natural to you. And then from our second position, we can then move to our third position. So from our third position, I'm going to take my right foot, and I'm just going to take my heel of my right foot, and I'm going to nestle it into the arch of my left foot here. So right here in this arch, that's where I'm shooting to get my heel. And then you're still going to have that turnout with that 45-degree angle of my right foot, and my left foot is still turned out as well. So those are really nestled against each other. My legs are pretty locked together as well, and that is your third position. So when we are going from our third position, we can then step into our fourth position. So for that, you're just going to take that right foot again, moving that forward, and you're just going to step that down in front of you. And when you're stepping that down, you do want to have some space here between your front and your back leg. So my right leg is the one that's in front. And if you're thinking about how you want to position the two in relation to each other, you want to think about the left toe being in line with your right heel. So I got the heel of my right foot here, and if I were to draw a line back to the toe of my left leg, I just want that to be in line. And then the toe of my right foot, I want to be able to draw a line back to the heel of my left foot. So if I were to just pull this back, I should be able to pull that heel into that left toe here if I have that proper positioning in relation to each other. But that's your fourth position. I'm just going to show you from this side as well so you can understand that spacing. So I'm going from my third position here, stepping that forward, and I'm just stepping into that fourth position. All right, so doing all of those positions together, we are just going to go from our parallel here, so we've got our feet together. And in ballet, there are a lot of arm positions that you'll do that actually correlate with first position, second position, third position, fourth position, all of those things. But since we are usually doing different things with our arms, or we have a flag in our hand when it comes to color guard, we're not going to worry so much about that. I'm just going to give you a little default position so we can go through those movements together. And then you won't have to have that second thing that you're thinking about just yet. So first position arms, you're usually going to be pretty lifted here. You're going to have good rounding in your arms here. So you're going to notice I don't have this really strong bend to my elbow. I actually have it rounded. I'm going to show you from the side as well. And then with my fingers, actually, you can think about there being a pencil. You can actually take like a pencil or a pen here and put that in between your fingers, and there's going to be just like a nice relaxed kind of grab. It's not really a grab, but nice relaxed hand here in terms of what your fingers are doing. And you don't want them to be like really bladed, you don't want them to be splayed, you want that nice in between where you've got kind of this relaxed, beautiful like dancer's fingers that are happening down here. So you'll do that in both hands. So that's something to keep in mind. And then I've just got this here where I'm thinking about, you know, a bowl full of jelly or something like I'm Santa Claus that I'm holding down here right now. So we'll do that with our arms. So if I'm doing all of this together, I am in just my parallel. I'm just going to move that into my first position, and I'm going to bring my arms into place here. My regular, like actual legit first position for my arms would be more lifted than this, but we're just gonna relax that down as we're concentrating on our feet. All right, so we've got first position. We're stepping that out to second position. Then we're going to pull that into third position. And then we'll step that out to fourth position. And you can just do that over and over again if you'd like. So you can actually step that back into first, into second, into third, and out to fourth. And those are the ballet positions that you will use quite a bit in color guard. Okay, so another couple common things that you are going to use from that ballet base in color guard are going to be your plie and your releve. So we are going to go over the plie first. You can do a plie originating from many different positions. So you could do it from your first position, your second position, your third position, all sorts of different areas. Just to get us started, I'm going to do this from a second position. This is usually a good starter position for people that are first learning how to do a plie. So we're just going to step that out. I've got those nice 45-degree angles with my toes. And then what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to think about sinking down. And a lot of people see a plie at first and they're like, oh, it's just a squat. It's actually different than a squat. So with a squat, you're usually thinking about sending that booty back. But with your plie, you're thinking about sending your booty down. So my knees are actually going to come forward. And they're going to start to go out to these angles here toward my toes. And I'm just going to think about sinking down and keeping my back straight as I go and not letting that booty go to the back at all. I'm just thinking about letting it go down. And you can take these even further, where you go even further down. If you were to go, we won't worry about a grand plie actually, but we're just going to go to about here for right now. And then you'll go ahead and lift up. In order to control this, you want to think about squeezing your core. So you can really do those nice and slow, controlled, where I'm squeezing my core as I go down. Don't forget to breathe though, breathing is important. And then you'll come back up. And as I'm doing this, with the particular plie that we're working on right now, your heels are going to stay planted. So don't let those heels lift as you go down. If you were going into a much deeper plie, then it would be more acceptable for those heels to lift a little bit, but we're not really at that level right now. We're not going to worry about that. So that would be in your second position. Like I said, you could do this from a first position, third, fourth, all sorts of different places. So if I'm doing this from my first position, I'm just sending my knees out, same type of thing, and then I'm coming up. To keep my heels planted, I'm not going to go quite as low in that. Once again, we could lift our heels if we were going into more of what's called a grand plie, but we're not going to worry about that today. Something that will really help you as you start to practice your plies is to find a wall. So I'm just going to take this wall here, and when you're going against the wall, so let's just take a second position, you're going to sink into your plie. And this is going to help you work on maintaining what your spine and what your booty should be doing, so they should be in line and they're not moving backwards. So if you're trying to do this as more of a squat, you're going to find yourself squatting right into the wall and hitting up against that, which means that you just need to think about lowering your body more and thinking about pushing your knees forward as you go down. So you aren't hitting the wall in more of that squat format. You want to really think down with your plie. So I'm going to show you what that looks like from the side as well. So from the side, I'm doing my plie, I'm sinking down and up and down and up. And that's your plie position. Okay, so now we're going to talk about releves. So with your releve, it's going to be a little bit of the opposite of a plie. So with your plie, you're thinking about sinking down. With a releve, you're going to be growing taller. But that doesn't mean that you should necessarily think about trying to get momentum out of your feet. That's something that you actually want to try to avoid, because then you're not going to be pulling out of the proper spot of your body for your releve. So let's just go, I think we'll go into first position as we practice our releve here. So when you're doing this, you're going to think basically like you're going up on your tippy toes, but it's a little bit different. I'm not thinking about like really propelling out of my feet there. I don't want to be bouncing out of that. I want a really nice controlled movement, and ways that this can be done is to really think about lifting out of your hips here. So right here, there's little dimples in your hips. I call these your hip headlights. You're going to think about keeping these forward and keeping them lifted. So you're really going to lift out of here as one place, thinking about creating more of an opening in your hips. And then also, instead of thinking what's happening down at my feet here, I'm going to think about what's happening up here. So the way that I like to think about this is think as if there is this really long piece of string that's running the length of your body. It's on your spine here. And if I were to take that string that is on my spine, and I'm thinking about pulling it up from the tippy top of my head, I'm just going to think lifting, and it's helping me visualize how my posture should lift, and then how my body should kind of have this light lift to it as well as I come up into that releve position. So even physically do that, like take your hand, think about that string in your body, think about it kind of straightening all of your vertebrae at once, and then very lightly lifting you as you go up into your releve position. And then you'll just very nice and controlled, just sink that back down. So you can do that here, where you've just got your hands in that kind of relaxed first position area. So you're going to lift, and you're going to bring it down. And then you can just do that over and over again. But really think about that nice controlled movement and not just bouncing up into it. It's going to feel a little bit different, and it's going to look a lot different too. So that is your releve.